since an attack on Iran may play directly into President Ahmadinejad's hands.
He, in some ways, would almost invite an attack. And he's ready, unfortunately, I fear, for the prolonged struggle that would follow it.
The U.S. and Iran are involved in what could be a deadly game of chess. Because Iran's nuclear weapons program is so well guarded, intelligence sources still don't know exactly how soon Iran could produce a bomb.
In Iran, with a nuclear weapon, would be incredibly destabilizing for the world.
If the U.S. did choose to attack Iran's suspected nuclear sites, the window of opportunity is small. Because if Iran completes its uranium enrichment, a U.S. attack could cause a nuclear disaster rather than avoid one.
An attack on Natanz when the centrifuges are full of UF6 could potentially release tons of uranium hexafluoride, which is both toxic and radioactive. You could get significant contamination.
But not to do anything has its own set of problems.
History would say, well, it was Mr. Bush's fault that they went atomic on his watch, and by the time the new president came in, it was too late to do anything.
If President Bush does decide on some military action against Iran, the late fall and winter are prime months because the nights are longer.
I particularly worry about the darker months of the year, when a United States military so capable in night warfare would have a great edge over the Iranian defenders.
President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who subscribes to a fundamentalist arm of the Shiite sect that envisions the end of the world, may even see such an attack as inevitable.
Ahmadinejad has very, very deep religious beliefs, and he, in some ways, I would think, would almost invite an attack. It wouldn't be something that he would view as a disaster.
But eliminating one risk can unleash a far greater one.
An Arab diplomat recently said that the Iraq wars opened the gates of hell in the Middle East. A war with Iran would push the Middle East through those gates, into hell.
Top secret analysts believe that Iran may be preparing for revenge if its homeland is attacked.
I would not expect to see much of a conventional military response from Iran. The reality is that most of Iran's military, by American standards, it's a parade ground military. It is not a military that could credibly threaten the United States military in a conventional stand-up fight. It's at the unconventional level that you ought to be worried.
There are many different scenarios of what Iran might do. One may involve retaliation from its network of spies in the Gulf, a top-secret network exposed by Adel Asadinia.
In Revolutionary Guard, there is a special section, and this section is very active.
According to Asadinia, this section recruits radical Shia in places like mosques, hospitals, and schools, and sends them to Iran for special military and ideological training. Trained, they return home to recruit others for their network and to spy for Iran.
At first, when you see this person, he is a doctor, but he works for intelligence service. When you go to schools in the Gulf, there are many teachers. Yes, there are teachers, but these teachers belong to intelligence service. They try to do everything top secret.
And that includes gathering information on potential targets in the Gulf, like U.S. military bases.
And if in the future it was necessary for Iranian regime to attack this target, use this network, because they have good training. They are ready to do everything.
And Iran may also use Hezbollah, a terrorist organization that it sponsors, which is based in Lebanon. Highly placed intelligence sources believe that Hezbollah has positioned cells all over the world, including in the United States.
There's always a concern that the Hezbollah group can potentially strike in the homeland. One most concerning aspect of the Hezbollah terrorist organization is that they do devote quite a bit to paramilitary training, to tactics that can be used to commit acts of terrorism.
The FBI says no Hezbollah cell operating in the United States has ever done that, yet.
Fortunately, the intelligence has been very good for us.
A rather huge network was unearthed in North Carolina that no one had a clue about it.
During this crucial operation in 2000, FBI agents caught members of the Charlotte, North Carolina cell in an illegal money-making scheme. They were buying cigarettes in North Carolina, where the tax was only about 5 cents a pack, and transporting them to sell in Detroit, where the tax was 70 cents higher. Authorities believe that some of the profits went to fund Hezbollah in Lebanon.
That is material support for terrorist groups if you knowingly provide either financial resources, equipment, or other types of support.
Although agents were able to connect the cell's leader, Mohammed Hammoud, to Hezbollah boss Hassan Nasrallah, they could not tie the cell to any planned terrorist act.
The question remains as to how far along they might have been.
And now, some believe that President Ahmadinejad may have recruited the alleged head of security for Hezbollah, Imad Mughniya, to come up with retaliation plans if Iran is attacked.
Imad Mughniya is a guy who I refer to as the Mozart of terrorism.
The Iranians would be fools not to consult him or involve him in such an operation because he has demonstrated talent and ability in that regard. Prior to 9/11, Imad Mughniya held the distinction of having killed more Americans than any other terrorist.
We continue to support Israel.
He was involved with the kidnapping of Americans in Beirut. He was involved with the bombings of the U.S. embassies in 1983 and 1984.
In the event of military action against Iran, Hezbollah can activate its cells.
So they would be able to attack economic infrastructure, U.S. diplomatic facilities, U.S. businesses. It could really lead to some chaos around the world in ways that we have not seen up to this point.
Iran's next venue for payback would be Iraq, and the border is wide open, and the Iranians could send thousands of Revolutionary Guards across that border to attack U.S. forces directly on the ground, or support friendly militias and other elements inside of Iraq.
Iran can close down the supply line that keeps U.S. troops alive.
And interfere with oil shipping in the Persian Gulf.
And so the combination of terrorism, attacking oil infrastructure in the Persian Gulf, and shutting down U.S. supply lines in Iraq can end up putting the United States in a very difficult position.
Any attack on Iran by the United States would basically mean that Iran would emerge as the leader of the Muslim world. You will be handing over the Arab Street to Iran on a silver platter. If Iran shatters because of the bombing, then you're going to be dealing with a territory much larger than Iraq, with 70 million people, with nuclear fuel in it.
And so, the lines for potential escalation are drawn. Now, the question remains, will either country find a way to move back from the brink?